I used to love closing up the library at night so I could sleep in and stay up late. The schedule was great. But after last night, I won't be alone in that building at night again. I had locked the doors and was putting the books away that had been left out when I hear one of the library carts squeaking at the end of the row of books that I'm in. Now, it was supposed to just be me in there since we were closed. I can see the cart moving slowly down the aisle of books, and my heart starts racing. It was an old building, and weird things have been known to happen, but never to me. As the cart continues to roll slowly towards me, I'm frozen just watching it, when suddenly it rolls faster towards me. This woman suddenly stands up on the other side of the cart and says, "Gotcha!" I practically jumped out of my skin, and I see she's grinning like a maniac. She puts her hands up like she's gonna grab me and yells at me, "Go hide!" I took off running, and she's laughing and counting out loud like it's some sick game of hide and seek. I ran into the closest locking door I could find and dialed 911, panic setting in as I hear her footsteps outside. She's banging on the door, clawing to get in, and I'm trying to stay quiet, praying the police arrive in time. When they finally do, they find her just outside the door, pounding and screaming that she found me and she needs to kill me. They arrested her for trespassing and assault, and I hope she gets the help she needs. I never thought locking up the library could turn into a real-life nightmare. But now every squeak, every creak sets me on edge. Libraries are supposed to be my safe place, my haven. But that night, being alone was the scariest thing of all. I used to travel a lot for work, and to avoid traffic, I liked driving at night. On one of these late-night road trips, I started feeling super sleepy, and to avoid wrecking, I knew I needed more caffeine. The next gas station I saw was sketchy, but I was out of options for coffee. I also really had to use the bathroom. So half asleep, I stumbled through the motions of using the bathroom around the back of the old building, and they'd made myself a cup so I could get back on the road, and hopped back into the car. Back on the highway, a few minutes later, I felt this weird pressure against the back of my seat. I brushed it off at first, thinking it was just my fatigue playing tricks on me. But then I felt it again, stronger this time. Something was definitely not right. I glanced in the rearview mirror a few times, paranoia creeping in, but there was nothing there, just the empty road and the darkness. A few more miles down the road, I felt something wet along the side of my neck and let out this guttural scream because in the mirror I saw him, a 50-something-year-old guy right there, leaning over my right shoulder, his tongue out, trying to lick my neck for a second time. Through my scream, I could hear his creepy voice telling me to be quiet and to keep driving. I swerved, heart pounding and adrenaline pumping like crazy. I had no idea how he got in my car, what the hell he wanted, but I wasn't about to stick around to find out. I hit the brakes and bailed out of the car right there in the right lane of the highway, screaming for help. The guy took off into the dark woods beside the road, leaving me standing there, terrified and shaking. A few seconds later, a trucker stopped to check on me. He said he knew something was wrong when he saw a guy run out of my car and into the woods. The police showed up, but they couldn't find the guy. I still can't shake off that feeling of violation. I think of it every time I'm alone in my car. I'm still haunted by that image of him leaning over me, his tongue sticking out of his horrible face in the dark. It makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. I lived in an apartment in a duplex next to a young couple with a dog, who I only knew by their first names, Erica and James, and their dog's name was Charlie. I'd been living there for about 6 months when things on the couple's side of the duplex started getting loud. They fought almost every night with loud, angry voices. Sometimes they got physical, and there were thuds and slams. I remember feeling really uncomfortable about it all, and I called the police twice when I heard them fighting. Both times, I heard the police knock on the door and then go into their side of the duplex. Each time, after about a half hour, the police left and things got quiet for a while. In fact, the last night I heard them fighting was the night of the police's second call. Then, amazingly, for 3 days everything was silent next door, and I was relieved, naively believing that they'd maybe work things out or that one of them had moved away. I noticed there were delivery packages in front of their door on the 4th day. I didn't think about it until the next morning when the packages were still there, and the car they shared was still parked in the driveway, unmoved since the last time the cops had been there. That night, Charlie barked for hours, and I knew something was wrong. The next morning, when I stepped out to check my mail, Charlie greeted me outside. They didn't usually leave him outside alone, so I held his collar and walked him up to their door. I knocked, but nobody answered. I brought Charlie back inside my side of the duplex and decided to knock again in about an hour. Maybe they were busy or sleeping or something. Seconds later, there was a knock on my door, and I looked through the peephole. It was James. I was relieved to see him so he could take his dog. When I opened the door, he looked at me blankly and then stepped forward suddenly and shoved me back into my duplex. I stumbled backwards, shocked. He pushed me twice hard. The second shove sent me stumbling backwards into my small end table, and I knocked over my small lamp, scattering broken pieces all over the floor. James punched the wall hard, leaving a hole in my wall just inches from my head. Staring at me with hate-filled eyes, vacant eyes, he said, "Clean it up, Erica," and stormed out, leaving me and his trembling dog behind. Horrified, I locked my door and called the police. When the police did arrive, they knocked on my neighbor's door, and James let them inside, just like every other time. But this time, they were only there for a few minutes when I saw them take James out in handcuffs. An ambulance and more cop cars arrived. A covered stretcher came out next. James admitted to having taken Erica's life. He'd kept her body in the tub for the last 4 days. I was absolutely horrified to think that this guy had totally snapped, then kept his girlfriend's body just a few feet from where I was sleeping. I think I was lucky he hadn't done the same to me. He had clearly been out of his mind. I moved out as quickly as I could. I couldn't live there anymore. The only good thing about that horrible situation was with both of them gone, I got to keep Charlie.